What's up, young adults? Welcome to episode 13 of the Paper Moon Podcast.
Lucky number 13.
Lucky 13.
Some of y'all, this may be your lucky episode.
Hey, maybe this is exactly what somebody needed, hopefully. We are Pastor Nick, Pastor Danny, Isha, our co-hosts for this podcast that helps young adults navigate the craziness of young adult life, big decisions that we got to make, colleges, relationships, marriages, jobs, careers, calling, purpose,
church, all
the things that are, I guess, burdening us a little bit sometimes. So hopefully this podcast is a way that young adults can turn to, get a little bit of wisdom, get a little bit of encouragement as these decisions are needing to be made as we are walking this life with Jesus. And that is the whole point. The whole goal of this podcast is to point people to Jesus. Even if we have young adults that are not in the church and not really involved in a Christian life, hopefully this is a way to get people involved, get people in the know of what we're about. So we're excited. Episode 13.
Wow.
This is going to be an interesting one because I wanted to take a little bit of a different turn. We've talked a lot about culture, church stuff, church history, and all that's good.
We talked about church history?
A little bit. I mean, in season 1, too, a little bit of, going into Corinthians, our last episode. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about us. I wanted to get our audience to know our story a little bit more. And I know we haven't done a lot of storytelling as our main portion of this podcast as an episode, but I think it's good. I think it's good for people to actually sit down and listen and be engaged in a story.
This is our true Hollywood
This is going to be different.
Documentary.
But before we get into like the topic, our actual question, I want to start off with this. Who is your favorite influential person? And if you could meet them and ask them one question, what would it be?
Wow.
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive. Could be an actor, musician, author, influential person.
Fictional or non-fictional? I'm just kidding.
I mean, a character.
Wow.
Most influential person. What do you got?
Dang, why I got to go first? It's tough, man. I would say...
We can do more than one because I probably will.
Yeah, it's. Okay. I mean, I would have loved to have a conversation with Martin Luther King, just to talk about life and theology and influence and
that's good.
That's a good one.
I would like to talk to him. I would have loved to sit down and talk to Prince. Just to hear his ideas and he's a musical genius. I love music, so I would love to sit down and talk to Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
To me, he is very influential in the music world.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question really quick.
Yeah.
Have you met like a famous or influential person before? Whether like on purpose, or like a concert or whatever, or maybe like just randomly you ran into somebody.
Yeah.
What was your response? Like, did you get shell shocked or did you talk? Or
no, I don't get shell shocked. So what I try to do is treat them as regular schmegular, as just be like, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm Nick.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting me too. Not arrogantly, but just to treat them.
people.
And it's funny because I don't know if this is a diss on me, but and Nikki and I, we bumped into famous people in the airport, and they'll be like, "Hey, man, do I know you?" And I'll be like, "No, you don't know me." And Nikki always like, "Why do people think you're famous?" And I'm like, "I don't know." But yeah, I've met, and I try to treat them regular, just introduce,
That's cool.
But yeah,
I've gotten to meet a couple of
we know you got to meet some people. You was in the skybox.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Walking the streets of NYC, that's why people go.
So, in high school, I really enjoyed music. I played guitar a lot, things like that. And the guy that influenced me to play guitar, his name is Chris Carrabba. He's lead singer of a super emo band called Dashboard Confessional.
I've heard of them.
Cryfest. Love them still. Amen. One time, I don't want it to be a long story, but one time, Dashboard, like they would play like in Austin, San Antonio, Chicago, like big cities, whatever. And the one time I was like, man, let me look them up to see like where they're playing. Maybe I can drive to Austin. And they're playing. It said Philadelphia, like April 23rd, April 25th, Edinburgh, Texas.
What?
And I was like, what? I was like, that's a typo. And sure enough, like UTPA at the time, UTRGV. They were bringing him down for a concert, like really random, to play at the baseball stadium. It was like an outdoor event.
Oh wow!
So I was like, man, like I was so excited because first time I'll ever see Dashboard in concert. But it was so I don't like concerts that are very huge and impersonal.
Yeah,
so it was
festival vibe.
It was ginormous, you know, like people were on the field, people were in the stands, but then there was like 50 feet of space between the barricade and the stage. Like it was just, it was impersonal. But anyway. A couple of years later, I was living in Alice. Summer and I were married, and this same guy, Chris Carrabba, started a like side project band of more like folky kind of music, and he was doing a tour with that band. And his first stop was Corpus. So I told Summer, "Hey, let's go to Corpus. Like we're gonna go see this guy." And he was playing at a bar. I mean, if you're listening, you can't really see, but about the size of this room, like just a tiny little hole in the wall place. And I told Summer, like, man, I think I'm gonna be able to meet him tonight. Like, I was just so excited, like, real giddy. And sure enough, we walk in and there was a band playing already to like open up, and then he was just chilling at the bar, like standing there. And I was like, that's Chris Carrabba. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I was just like in shock. So she was like, well, talk to him. So I was like, all right. And so I went up and talked to him for a little bit, and just down to earth, man. He was just chilling.
That's neat.
That was super. Just a really cool moment for me. But as far as ministry. Influential person for me that I would love to sit down with and talk to, I think it's pretty obvious. My boy.
JMC,
right?
I knew it.
Go talk to him, talk about his sabbatical life. But no, like just I loved he's the kind of person that if he posts a book that he's reading like on Instagram, I'm like screenshot.
I'm about to get it. Yeah.
I'm that's good. Right now. And so just like cuz I want to know like who are you reading that's causing you to think the way that you think, right?
I love that.
And so, yeah, he's definitely someone I'd love to meet. And obviously, my other boy, Tom Brady. And the question, because your question was, what question would you ask him, right? You meet someone influential, what question would you ask him? The question I would ask him is, like, how do you keep on wanting more? Because, I think after his third ring, he's like, I mean, it's not enough, right? And he's got 7 now. So, like, what... Or even somebody like Kobe, MJ, like those guys, they're just built different. Like, how do you have that tenacity to just keep going? Like that to me is remarkable. But that's also special people. But and living in New York, we ran into a couple of people that was interesting. It was pretty
that's
cool.
neat.
Those were pretty deep. Like as soon as you said Martin Luther King, I was like, oh, I gotta change my answer because the first person I thought of that I was like, oh, that's my favorite actor is Robert Downey Jr. I was like, Iron Man.
Iron Man.
He's my favorite. I can't really think of a question I would ask him that hasn't already been asked by somebody. Probably.
What was it like being Iron Man
in an interview? But I just love his personality, like on screen, and I love his character. So I don't know. I don't really know what question I would ask him. But just right now, I thought of Steve Prefontaine because I'm a runner.
Go Pre.
And to me, in my opinion, he was one of the greatest runners ever. Just his drive and his passion for the sport, aside from his talent.
Runners are built different.
Yes.
He was different. He was a whole nother breed of athlete because of how... like method actors, they go above and beyond to get to, what they need to do. Like that was Bale. Like him. Like he went above and beyond. Like he had, he like jumped off a roof into a pool one night, whatever. He had stitches in his foot. He still raced and ran with blood like coming out of his foot. He ran when he was sick, like with a fever and everything, because he didn't want to stop. Like he was just... He was really awesome. He died really young too. I don't know how old he was.
I think it was like 24.
Was it a crash or something?
It was a car crash. Yeah. So I just would have asked him like, what compels you to be so passionate about this,
running?
About running,
I know,
like.
I thought you were going to say like Elizabeth Elliott.
That would have been a good one too. Yeah, I would love to meet her. I would have asked her so many things. She reminds me a lot of Elizabeth Elliot.
I feel weird.
I've mentioned her before on the podcast. She has her own podcast.
Oh yeah.
So her episodes are it's very calming, very relaxing because she just tells stories. It's pretty much what she does. She doesn't, do a lot of deep Bible study in her podcast, but she incorporates scripture into her life experiences as a missionary, being remarried 3 times, going through tragedies as a widow, and just like so much wisdom. But I mean, there are so many influential people I think that we would love to meet and talk to. But I think influential people seem far away sometimes. And like we talked about in the last episode, like...
Which is why it's so weird when you see him in person.
Yeah.
Like it's
and that's why I try to treat him regular. Not in a disrespectful way, but like sometimes I'll see him and I'll be like, they're trying to get their coffee or they're trying to get... Like you see him and I mean, they are famous.
So there was at Kinship, one of our regulars. He is apparently a star on Broadway. But I mean, I don't know anything about Broadway, so I don't know who this guy is. He walks in with his dog, and we're talking fantasy football, but then our coworkers you're talking to him, like you're talking to Aaron. And I was like, I mean, I don't know who this guy is. Yeah. And so, but it's interesting, I guess, when you know who they are, type of thing. I'll say this one real quick. 2 of them. I did rent to a couple people, and it was really interesting. One of them, I don't know if you know him, but he's a sportscaster named Danny Cannell. Played football at Florida State, and he was like involved in college football radio. So that I liked listening to him a lot. And one time we were shopping at a store in New York, and he was there. It was Heisman weekend ceremony, so he was in town. Yeah. And I told Summer, I was like, "That's Danny Cannell. Like that's kind of cool." And so I went up to him, said what's up to him, and it was funny because I heard him then tell his wife, see, people know who I am. So I think
that's cool.
His wife probably thought, no one knows who you are.
Don't nobody know you, Danny.
And I was like, bro, let's take a picture real quick. But then...
you should have been like, and do you know who I am? I'm Danny Randall.
I hate that. And then another time, we went to a museum, and I was just like, museum, whatever, it's cool. I'm not into, a lot of that stuff. I was bored after 30 minutes, even though for some people they can be there for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's me.
And so Summer and I were just standing by the wall. Our friends are still continuing to explore. And then I see this person walking towards us, and there was it was the second floor, escalators are kind of around here. And I said, look. And I even forgot the name for a second. I was like, that's somebody. And it was Jennifer Lawrence. And we're and she was just walking with 2 people surrounding her, and she was just dead straight, nobody talked to me type of thing. Yeah. But I wanted to try, but you couldn't. But I was dang, it was just a crazy moment.
That's cool.
Neat.
But some people are not approachable.
Some people aren't. Yeah.
So and I mean the reason why I asked that question is because there's so many people we love that are kind of far away, or we feel that they influence us, they have a positive impact in our lives, and so I was thinking about our last episode as well, just the people that are close to us as well that have high impact in our lives. So I wanted to learn who those high impact people are in our lives, and how they made us who we are, how they had that help, that influence in our lives, but really because they were close to us. And so I know that everybody probably has a VIP person, a very important person in their life, or very important people, multiple people. But I think even more than being important, there are some people that have very high impact in our lives. I mean, hopefully we've had those people that have just, maybe it's a relative or somebody that has mentored us or encouraged us in a certain way, even just for a small season, but that make us who we are. And I think that that's just a really interesting part of, because we're all in ministry and we all have a leadership role of some kind. And a lot of people might be wondering, how did they get to be who they are? Because I think all the time, we have new dream teamers come in, new people that are wanting to serve in the ministry. And I just think, man, they don't know who Isha was, in 2018. I'm a different person. And they're seeing this, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, but they're seeing this, kind of molded person that has come a long way. Right. And so I think it's important for us to think about those people that, no, they helped shape us into who we are today.
That's good.
But as we're talking about influence and having an impact, I think that there's a difference between influence and impact. So what would you guys think is that distinction between being an influential person and being an impactful person?
That's a great question. Because I feel like I feel like, and this, I could be totally wrong, but I think you can have an impact even if you're absent.
Yeah, it's
You know,
true.
like, my dad left
Wow.
when I was 6, so his absence impacted my life.
Right.
You went deep twice.
You know, well,
So you went
Listen.
deep twice.
I mean, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think impact is something like,
But
I-
because that was close, like closely related, and
Yeah.
so I think that closeness has a difference.
yeah. So I think you can impact people's life by your presence or by your absence.
That's
It's
crazy.
true.
I think you influence people's life by your presence.
Okay.
That's I can
That's
agree
that's
with that.
where I'm trying.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
That's
So,
good. When I thought about this question, when I think influence, now I think social media. Like you have social media influencers. Their job is to get you to buy something, or they kind of motivate you to do something. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I see influencers as more like they're motivators. They're trying to get you to do something, whether they're selling a product or they're living a certain lifestyle, and you kind of get motivated to do that. And so to me, I almost feel like influence, something that you're influenced by might help you with making a decision, but something that you're impacted by changes your direction. And so both negative and positively. And so I'll give a simple example. I always share this one with Summer. When we watch a Marvel movie and Captain America or Thor takes his shirt off, I am then influenced to go to the gym.
right,
Because I'm
An
like,
impact.
but I'm not like changing my entire lifestyle. I'm not changing my actual direct. I'm like, I'll go to the gym tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
I don't go again for like 2 weeks. Right?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, and I think too, even back in high school, like just part of my story, we're talking about like getting to know each other a little bit more. I didn't come to Jesus until going into my senior year of high school. So before that, I lived a very just sinful life, in and out of parties and out of relationships, stuff like that. But then when I'll say this, impacted by the gospel, it changed my direction. But what happened too was I had friends who were also trying to influence me to change decisions about my life to kind of go back to a
So
certain
you see
lifestyle.
impact as kind of more
Deeper
relational
relational
influence.
Yeah. Influence is like, all right, like you might influence me to make a decision, right? And sometimes it's like the people that are, close to me, important to me, I might, go to them to ask like, hey, help me make a decision, and they might influence me type of thing. I just feel like somebody who has an impact on me, it will probably have a greater, to use the word influence on where I'm going to go next. And so to me, it's like I might be influenced by something, and it might help me decide to do something or not decide to do something. But when I'm impacted by something, I feel like that's going to change my direction almost completely.
Yeah.
And so to me, influence is decision and impact is direction.
But
Wow, I like how you said that.
I think like a pattern or multiple moments of influence lead to an impact. And
Yeah.
I just started
absolutely.
thinking like,
Yeah.
okay, those are moments, right? Like seemingly short interactions with certain people. Like I think of student ministry, like I think of students, we always tell them, like your friends will have an influence on you. You got to choose your friends carefully, things like that. But over time, being influenced by a certain thing or a certain person, that will have an impact.
It gets to that direction.
It gets
Danny
to
was
that
talking about.
point.
Yeah,
I was
that's neat.
thinking like on Monday, I went to Dairy Queen with my friend Cammie, and I had only the intention of getting fries. And so I'm getting her order because I'm driving, and she said, "Yeah, I'll take like a medium blizzard or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll have an ice cream too." Just like, I just threw it in there because I felt like
You were impacted.
I was influenced
and
in that
influenced
moment.
at the same
But
time.
Do you go to Dairy Queen just for the fries?
no, but
Like, is that like your favorite fast food fries?
I love fries. I crave fries in
Okay,
certain
just
moments.
anywhere,
I just
anywhere.
don't eat them all the time. So I'll get a craving for
I was
fries.
just curious.
I'm gonna tell you. I mean, I know this is a sidebar, but a place that has next level fries that's not talked about enough in my book is Wingstop.
Yeah, no, they're great.
They have really good
Wingstop has
fries.
some next level fries, but I'm sorry to take
No.
that.
But you're impacted by how much they cost.
Yeah,
But if I allow myself to be influenced by my friend Cammie or by whoever is around me, like nutrition wise, for example, like if I allow myself to be influenced over time, that's going to have an impact on my body, on my mental state or
Absolutely.
whatever. But I like that you said, there can be a negative or positive impact by people. And I just think that impact is so interesting because it can be such a short amount of time that somebody has with us, and they can leave a major impact, negative or positive, or they can be with us. You don't even need to have a connection
with somebody to impact their life.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that throughout human history. You see that, and somebody can say the wrong thing to you and don't even know you, and those words will stick. I mean, we talk to people all the time that they're adults still wounded from childhood wounds from a classmate that bullied them, and that classmate ain't had no connection to you at all. You know what I mean? And so,
But today, I want to talk about the positive impact that people have had in our lives, because I think it's powerful. It's what we carry with us. It's what we allow to shape us too, because we can have a negative impact on somebody, but that person may not allow it to continue to impact them. But the positive things that people that we meet, interact with, that we allow to impact us, that we allow to change us and transform us, I think there's so much power in that. And
I'm so glad you said that too, Isha, that the influence that we allow, because I don't think that's talked about enough. Like what we allow to feed our spirit or our life. I love it what you said. Like, you didn't allow your friends to influence you in that direction, even though they were actively trying to do that. I think
we do have a choice. I think
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's good.
You have a choice.
I think that I want to ask you all to share. I want us to talk about that person. Maybe it's multiple people that have had a high impact, HIP, high impact person, that have had a high impact in our lives.
Hip?
Who's your hip, guys?
Who's your hip?
Let's just talk about this. And, share how you met, how you got to be close to them, if it wasn't a family member or somebody, how that relationship started, and really what changed because of their presence, because of their...
Yeah. So for me, multiple people have impacted my life, going back to what you said at the beginning of kind of like, how do we get to where we are now type of thing. And one of the first ones was my first youth pastor. His name was Nick Acker, youth pastor at First Baptist Edinburgh. And I remember my
sweet bishop
going, pulling up to a youth group. So just to kind of give context, you walk in, or they have this little kind of open atrium in the middle of their church buildings, like breezeway. And you go into these doors, and it's stairs to get up to the youth room. So you're walking up the stairs. I remember walking in and just hearing a lot of noise, like just people running around, yelling, stomping, and it was just loud. And I was a junior in high school, so I'm coming into this it's all a bunch of little kids in here.
Yeah.
And you kind of go up. It's all these walls, and then you go up to the youth room. There's a hallway with a bunch of classrooms in the youth room, and I saw this giant man chasing middle schoolers with water noodles, just trying to just knock them out with water noodles. And I was like, what is going on in this place? Where am I at? And then being Nick, he saw me come up the stairs, and he recognized that I was new, and he stopped what he was doing, and he said, "Hey, what's going on? My name is Nick." And that stopping, to me, I didn't realize at the moment, was very impactful, because he saw that I was new, saw that I was different, and then learned who I was, right? And so his stopping impacted me in a way that was just like this guy recognizes me. And so to me, and even now, just thinking about church philosophy and everything, we one thing we believe at BT is like we want to greet people the moment they get into the doors type of thing. And so that was a huge impact to me, to where then it caused me to want to listen to him. All right, so you recognize me, so I'm going to now get to know you, listen to what you have to say. And that turned into a relationship of just he and I meeting together, grabbing coffee, grabbing lunch together. And then he started sharing the gospel, and that then impacted me in my faith, right? Wow. And so that was one. secondly, I would say our senior pastor, Chris Dupree. I was working at Camp Zephyr at the time, trying to figure out life, the young adult time of just like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to marry? Where am I going to work? All this stuff. I knew I was called to ministry, didn't know what it was going to look like, which I think is a lot of people around that age. Started going to Bible college, all that stuff. Chris Dupree became the senior pastor at a church around Camp Zephyr called Aladusa Baptist Church. And for whatever reason, went to Zephyr and said, hey, how about you consider, he had no idea who I even was.
Wow.
How about you consider coming and be our youth pastor or student director at Aladusa Baptist Church? I was like, sure, why not? That sounds great. And so I'd never done it before. And if you know Chris, he's the kind of guy that he's just going to throw you in the deep end.
Yeah.
You play guitar a little bit, Danny? I was like, yeah, kind of. He's like, all right, cool, you're leading worship this Sunday. I was like, okay. I mean, it sounds great. I don't know how to do that. And so, but just the opportunity that he gave me to lead out in ministry by throwing me into the deep end several times, what was just influential for me, impactful for me, to use both words. But what he did also, not just saying, all right, go do this, go do that, is there was a season for about a year where I was still living at Camp Zephyr and serving as a student director at Aladusa Baptist Church, where every Wednesday he and I would go get lunch. So then he would just share wisdom of his time in student ministry and all that stuff, the events that he did, the things that he tried, while allowing me to try things based on the things that he have done in the past. But I think the most impactful thing for Chris and his wife Christy was they opened up their home to both Summer and I. It's just like, all right, this is us. We got 3 kids at the time. We're wilding, and then Luke came in a little later. And they just allowed us to see them, see their home and see how their marriage was with one another, and that impacted us of just how now Summer and I think, how are we going to be a married couple? How are we going to be parents and things like that? And so for them, that's always going to be super impactful for us. And then, I mean, honestly, just you, Nick.
Wow.
Impactful for me of just
don't mess me up.
Of just getting wisdom from you and spiritual direction, but also challenge. The season that I had of going to New York to church plant was powerful season for us. But then I remember you always say like, we're gonna bring you back. And those little nuggets are like, oh. And so, but just desiring to be on a team, with somebody like you that is gonna lead us and guide us in that way. So, and there's a lot more, but those are the 3 pastors, I guess, that kind of, as far as my ministry and where I'm at, have kind of helped me get to this point.
It's really interesting that you said that, which I had never really heard before, that Pastor Chris kind of threw you in the deep end, and those opportunities is what impacted your life and your ministry, because you did that to me. You threw me in the deep end when you first met me, and I felt the exact same way when I got here. You had known me for like 3 months, which not really knew me. You just knew of me, I think. And then you just asked me like, hey, you want to lead a group at one weekend? I was like, sure. And you were like, do you know what that is? And I said, no. And but that moment, I still talk about that moment. Like I'm like, that moment changed everything. It was also my yes and my willingness to do it, but you kind of trusting me and just giving me an opportunity really like impacted my life and my ministry, and I am here because.
And now we're on a podcast together.
And now we're on a podcast together. The 3 of us impacting one another. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, for me, so I've grown up in church my whole life. I'm not perfect, no, but one of the things I love that my mom did is she made sure we were in church. Even when she had to work on Sunday, she made sure we had a ride. And so our church context, Black Baptist Church, if you study that, you look that up. But we were in church all day. I mean, all day. And so we would have like halftime after that. We had 11 a.m. service, then a break. Then we would have 4:30 p.m. service. So we had a kitchen at our church, and, to keep people from going to restaurants, people would buy dinners from church. And so in that kind of halftime period, people are mingling before the next service, and I would always eat. I would get my food. My mom would get my dinner, I would always eat with the deacons. They would be in the back room just around a bunch of old guys, and I would be a fly on the wall. And And every now and then, you know, they would be like, Nick, what do you think about that? They wasn't listening to me. But little stuff like that, it taught me how to listen and kind of be a sponge. But it also, I think, helped. It helped me know that, you know, I matter. Like these men see me and they care about me, and you know, and so those deacons really, they raised me, man.
That's good.
They
cool.
raised me. I always say this, even though I didn't grow up with my father in my home, I didn't grow up unfathered.
Wow.
And so those guys raised me. So, you know, I kind of had like a Frankenfather. Like I pulled this one from this and this one. You know, like they, you know what I mean? You get the best of both worlds. And these were not perfect men.
Yeah.
They were not. But they were men that loved Jesus. They were men that I knew, you know, if I needed to ask their advice, they were wise men. They would help me. And they would challenge me. You know, a couple of the deacons, they were police officers. And so, man, I would see them in church on Sunday, and then they would say, yeah, hey, we saw you at your school, and, you know, talk to your teachers. Like, I didn't even know they were checking up on me. Like that puts a pit in your stomach, man. You like, hold up.
Right.
These guys are, you know, and they didn't have to do that. They had families of their own, you know, but they looked after me. And so my formative years growing up, it was the deacons of my church. 3 in particular, Deacon Doster, Deacon Howard, Deacon Richards, those guys, and some of the other deacons. And then my barber, you know, all my life I had like one barber until I got to college. And then I didn't like how they cut hair in North Carolina, so I started growing my locks. But my barber is very influential. He gave me my first job. I would sweep hair at his barbershop in the summertime and get $7 a chair at the end of the week. So at the end of the week, I'd get $21. And I thought, you know, I was rolling in it. But just watching him serve his community, serve his church. I mean, he's had the barbershop in the same community for, you know, 30 years. And, you know, he poured out wisdom and another man that I knew I could count on. And then when we got to college, Nikki and I went to a church, and Deacon Jones and his wife, Sister Jones, they were our mentor couple. We saw them kind of raise their kids, and all of this was informal. It wasn't like it was none of this, you know. Hey, you know, I want to register for this. We didn't register for this. We just lived life. Right. And man, they had jobs, and man, we would be to their house till 2 a.m. And they loved on us and poured into us and just really, you know, really influential and really impactful. You know, now I can look back now and I see God place them in my life as lamps, you know, along my journey.
That's good.
And
wow.
so
that's powerful.
So yeah.
That's awesome. For me, I have 2 that I want to share. The first, I think, isn't so, you know, like I wasn't mentored or discipled, but my grandma had a huge impact, not just on me, but on our family. And when I was young, you know, she lived in Mission, so we wouldn't go see her super often just because of, I don't know, like the drive, and we're a family of 6, so it was hard to make time, you know, and it's hard sometimes. But as I got a little bit older, I just started to realize like there's a lot of stories that she has, and it's not always easy to go to make a visit, to make a sacrifice in my time, in the schedules that we have going on. And I wasn't driving yet, so I would have to kind of coordinate with, you know, our family that would go. But I think when I started coming into the church and I got saved, and I started to serve here at BT, and I started telling her about that, it's like my eyes were just open to who she really was as a godly woman, as somebody who would not stop talking about Jesus. Anytime we would go over, just Jesus was on her lips, like constantly. And when I got even older, when she started to get some more health issues, and I learned that she had like sores in her mouth, like she was still talking to us. Like we were there for like an hour and a half, and I didn't know that, but it's like pain went away. It's like all of that didn't matter as long as we had ears there and there were people in her house visiting her. Okay, I'm gonna talk. I'm just gonna share about Jesus and about heaven, and that I started to just pick up on it. And so I felt that my time was limited with her. Definitely, she passed away, I think, early 2019. And so I was barely coming into like my ministry. I had just started girls ministry. So she knew that I was here at the church. She knew that I was leading the girls and the students. And she was super proud, super happy and everything. But I started to really listen, and I would always think like I should write these down. But when I was there, I just wanted to like look at her and listen. Yeah. And so some of my biggest regret in the impact and just in how that could have been better is me not visiting enough and me not asking enough questions and writing things down because I forget or whatever. But some of her stories that really impacted my ministry and as a young person in ministry was just the hardship she faced when she shared Jesus, because she started working when she was like 15. She got married when she was like 17, and my grandpa was in the army, so they would travel, and she had a bunch of different jobs. But in one of her jobs, she was working in a factory. She would tell the ladies that she was working with about Jesus, and one time they just got after her, like, you can't be doing this. You need to stop. And she just said, I can't. It's my job to share about Jesus. Wow. And there was another hard time in her life when she came back from California down to Mission with the family, with the babies, and she faced a lot of hardship from her mother-in-law because they were very Catholic. And so she would just be picked on constantly. Just, about what she would wear, how she was mothering, the children. And I just think about all these things and how she faced so much hardship and challenge, and she still walked away with the best gift that she could ever have. And I see the fruits now of her sharing just constantly. So that when she passed away and I just realized, everything of like, this is what life is really about. This is what we're supposed to do here, is just tell people about Jesus, love people. I had never, ever thought about getting a tattoo. And until she passed away, and I thought like, I still need more. I still need her attached to me. I got a tattoo in her honor. And it's a crown on my wrist.
Oh, wow. I didn't know the story behind that.
She had told me, she had given me a little gold crown on a keychain, and she gave it to me, and she said, this represents the crown that we're going to receive in heaven for telling people about Jesus. Wow. And every person that gets saved because of your faithfulness, not because you saved them, but because you told them the gospel, you'll get a crown, a jewel, or a ruby on your crown. And it just felt very motivating for me to not stop telling people and to not stop being a light for people. And so I put it where I can see it. And during my hardest times in ministry or in life, or when I feel people are treating me wrong, or I feel like I'm going through it, I would look down at my wrist and I'm like, this is why I got it, so I could look at it and so it could help me during this hard time.
I didn't know the story behind that.
Yeah, and one time recently, I told Ben, I was like, I really wish she was here. I really, I'm gonna don't cry. I really wish I would have asked her more questions, like, how did you handle people being rude to you when you were just doing what you were called to do? So that was her impact on my life just started when obviously she had my mom, on my mom's side, because if she didn't love Jesus, it would have affected the whole family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my mom decided when she was like 30, I'm going to start praying for my kids, and I'm going to start praying for a Christian husband. And that affected our immediate family now. So that had a huge impact on my life, and her life made a huge difference in who I am today. Second person is Colin, my boss, Pastor Colin.
I like
our
that guy.
Student pastor.
I like that guy.
We met in 2018, at the very end of 2018, when he was coming to replace Danny. When Danny left to New York, and was like, peace. And
Cold
I was
away.
super happy that he was coming in. I felt very comfortable with him. I had met him only once before, and I already felt that it was God-given.
I wouldn't have left if I didn't know Colin was coming. Like, just to clarify.
Okay, yeah.
So I knew he was coming, so I was like, all right,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah, right.
I think I felt super comfortable with it.
Okay.
But I knew a change was going to happen. I knew transitions were happening, and it was going to be rough, but I felt like we could go through it together. And this was my first job, so I felt very much like, okay, this is going to be, he's a good boss, like he's a really good person. But as we started to grow, and as I started to start girls ministry up, and really learning what ministry is and what my calling is, he just became a safe place for me. And that was very important to me, was that I felt safe in just different things I was going through. He has always been just like I don't know how else to describe it except like a safe place.
Yeah.
Where I knew, as I go through things, I can talk to him. As I am growing as a leader, I can ask him for wisdom. And he's just always been like a brother to me. But still, I respect him as a pastor too, as somebody that can pastor me. And now that I'm married and he loves both Ben and I, it just felt so fitting that everything would happen according to plan, that everything would happen in God's timing. So I want to ask this to you all about those people that you all mentioned. How do you see that life would have been different without their influence and then without their impact?
Woo. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's scary to think about.
I mean, I have no idea where I would be. I think, like, obviously your salvation moment's a big moment, right? The moment that you come to faith in Jesus, right? But I also think that discipleship is impactful and powerful, because without discipleship, then you may not grow into your faith if you have nobody there to help lead you and guide you. And so I think that moment that I came to faith in Jesus, my junior year of high school, was real and powerful. But I think what impacted me was the discipleship that came after that. And so if it's weird to say, but if I would have just said yes to Jesus, but then not been discipled, not have anybody else come alongside me, then I feel like I probably would have just gone back, to my old life type of thing.
Yeah.
And so that really led and guided me to where, when I came to faith, I had a lot of confusion, because then I was like now questioning what I want to do with my life. And then the people that I mentioned, like, they all helped me in the ministry that I have. And I can't see myself doing anything else outside of ministry. And so, yeah, I guess I'd probably be working at a coffee shop somewhere or something. So I don't know, but
yeah, really, I don't think I would. I don't think I would be anything.
yeah,
Like, just honest, I would be a nobody without. And another highly influential person in my life, impactful person, my mom. I love my mom. I'm a mama's boy. I love my mom. My mom lives with me. As long as I live, if I got it, my mom got it. Like, my mom, I just have seen her, she raised 4 of us, by herself, kept us in church, with the help of our community and our village. And so she's somebody I carry with me all the time. And those deacons are men I carry with me all the time. And what I mean by that is this: their influence in my life, it let me know that, Nick, you are connected to people. Like, I remember when I got to college, I had a very rough season in college one time. I mean, a very hard season. And I wanted to quit. Like, I literally wanted to quit school. I was like, you know what? I'm smart. I can figure something out. Get a good government job. Go back to something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to quit. And I'll never forget it. I had walked out of my class in the psychology building, and I was like, you know what? I'm about to quit school. And on my walk from the psychology building to my dorm, I kept thinking about all of these people that were rooting for me, all of these people that had poured into me, all of these people that I don't want to say counting on me because they weren't, but all of these people that believed in me and that took their time and their life and their prayers and poured into me. And I said, you know what? I can't quit.
That's good.
Like if I quit, what they did is in vain. That's how I felt. And that's what I believe. And so that motivated me to put my big boy pants on and hey, if you're going to have to take this class again, you're going to have to take this class again, but you ain't quitting.
That's good.
Because you're connected to your community and they believing in you. And I think a lot of young adults, I'm going to just kind of take a pivot. I think a lot of young adults in our Western society are so individualistic that they don't understand you are not an independent island. You are connected to somebody. You are connected to someone. And I know, well, I don't have a family you had, Pastor Nick, and I'm not connected. Like, well, guess what? There are people in your future you're going to be connected to.
Yeah.
And so, that helped me. And man, it helped me hold on a little while longer. And by God's grace, I'm becoming someone.
That's a good segue actually into how we close out this episode and help our young adults that are listening. Maybe somebody is feeling like, well, I don't know who that person is in my life, or I've never met somebody that really had a positive, high impact.
Office hours.
There you go. Yeah. What are some practical ways or things that a young adult can do to find a mentor, to find somebody that will have that positive impact in their life?
DM. Right. That one of the things that I always kind of philosophy I always have is the worst people can say is no. Right. So think about someone or something that, if there's a career path that you want to go after, figure out your calling, all that stuff. Just shoot somebody a text, a message that you think would benefit you in having a conversation with them and just see if they're willing to chat.
Yeah.
But also like in those moments, like kind of pony up a little bit. So one thing I did when I moved to New York is I tried to meet with as many pastors, church planters as possible. And it was just find a pastor on Instagram, whatever, send him a text. Hey, I see that you live, in this neighborhood of Brooklyn. There's a coffee shop there. Are you cool if we meet at that coffee shop? I'll buy you a cup of coffee. I'd love to just pick your brain about ministry in New York City. So it's like what I was trying to do was say, like, I'm going to go to you, to your area,
Right.
to
That's
your
good.
community.
Yeah.
And even in those moments too, because reality is a lot of people are busy, right? And what we don't want someone to feel is like you're making somebody busier, right? Or you're adding to their schedule type of thing. If you make it as easy as possible for someone to say yes to that kind of invitation, I think they would be more prone to say yes type of thing. So it's like, I would love to pick your brain for 1 hour, like kind of set a hard stop, to that meeting time type of thing and go to where they are. And I think that just kind of shows a level of commitment as well by you going to them in that direction as well.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is just because someone's willing to meet with you, don't maybe expect them to like be your mentor forever.
Yeah.
Like not everybody can mentor everybody.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so like, Jesus had his disciples, but then he had his 3. Like there was 3 people that he poured into a little bit more deeply. And so don't be offended if someone can't disciple you for 2 or 3 years of your life, or if it's the first person you think of and they're unable to do it type of thing. Just pray about someone
or
that
the
can.
other way around. Like if you start conversating with somebody and you realize like, okay, I'm not sure that this would be the right fit. Like, I think that's okay too. Like, not everybody is going to be a great fit, but I think it starts with like, talk to people, ask questions. Don't be afraid to make a commitment, to show that you're committed and growing. I think that goes a long way too.
That's good.
Yeah, I think all of those are major, man. Another thing I would say is get around people, close your mouth, open your eyes, open your ears, open your heart. You know, get around people, go to church and sit with somebody that's in a different age bracket than you.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
Yes.
You know,
even if you don't know what you want to do.
No,
you had
listen.
said like you knew you wanted to do ministry, but even if you're like lost,
I didn't know what but you mix it up. Like and people have always said, Nick, you're an old soul, and that may be true. But I know, you know, I was in rooms with guys 30, 40 years older than me, just listening and observing and soaking in as much, you know. Another thing is this. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you have the Holy Spirit. You have the Holy Ghost. Okay? And so God knows what you need when you need it. Mm-hmm. And it could be that you have a mentor already.
Yeah.
You probably have a mentor already. But you're not spiritually aware. You know, you're not spiritually open.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
You know, I think that's important too. Like, you have to do some work to be teachable, and I love it how Pastor Louis says it, to be available, and you have to welcome accountability, because all of the highly impactful, influential people in my life have hurt my feelings too. Mm. And if, you know, I encourage the guys that want to meet with me. Like, I'm not perfect. I might, you know, I might say something. I might do some things that, and I'm not saying be disrespectful, whatever. Right. But this is a life relationship. Like, it's gonna be some friction sometime. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so if you can't handle conflict, offense, your feelings being hurt, then you might not want to be influenced or impacted by people.
Yeah,
you might want to stay by yourself. But if you stay by yourself, you ain't gonna be good.
Yeah,
that's right.
Man, this was a good episode.
It was. I feel powerful. Like I need some tissues for the next time you host.
Sorry about that. I mean, I need tissues for myself. I make myself cry. But I think we can start to see how people and their impact on us have affected generations. Yep. You know, us and the people that we are impacting. And so I would encourage our young adults that are listening to think about how you are making a high impact on somebody. Yeah. Think about who's in your vicinity, who's in your life right now, in your community that maybe you're not being such a positive impact. Maybe you're being a negative impact, and talk to people, ask for feedback. I would say, you know, how can I not just be a better friend to you, but how can I help you? How can I help grow you? How can we grow each other?
How can we grow each other? That's important.
Yeah. And think about the next generation. Think about students. Think about kids. Like, how are you pouring into somebody? How are you, affecting somebody, not just for right now, not just for their season, but for the next generation to come.
That's good too. Like, who can you mentor?
Yeah.
And I don't want to extend it, but I think we often feel that if we're not, you know, when you post something on social media, if you don't get 1,000 likes, then you kind of feel like you're not impacting anybody. But imagine you post a picture and you get 40 likes. It doesn't feel good when you have 1,000 followers sometimes.
I archive it.
Right? You archive it, right? You're like, never mind this post.
Yeah.
But imagine if 40 people ran up to you and just started praising you.
Dang.
That would feel a little different, right?
Yeah.
So somebody was impacted by that post.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, maybe adjust how you would even define how I can influence and impact somebody. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just one person. Maybe it's a room of 1,000. You have no idea what you're going to end up doing. But be willing to impact the one, right? Mm-hmm. Versus thinking like I can only do what I need to do to impact 1,000 people.
That's major.
That's good. And we might not see the fruit right now.
No.
So this was good. This was encouraging.
Thank you.
Episode 13.
Episode 14 is coming up next. We don't know what we're going to talk about, but catch up on any episodes that you maybe haven't watched or listened to yet. Share it with somebody that you think it would
give us
help.
a rating.
Yeah.
The stars. Give us stars and all of that.
We're stars.
It helps our
impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
hopefully we're a high impact podcast. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.